What's up, guys? I am Drew with Comic Slate here with
Kyle, not Kevin.
And we have with us today, again, back for a second time, for a second helping, David Quinn, writer of Faust, Love the Damned, and Go to Sleep, Little Creep, and Doctor Strange, and many other titles. Thank you for coming back, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, guys. We just talked around the time of the Kickstarter last Black Friday, but life's been interesting since and a little crazy, and I'm a little fatigued, but very happy that we are not only delivering the Kickstarter to all those faithful backers that supported it, but making plans to come out with a comic shop edition for all the people that screamed, "I missed the Kickstarter, please, how can I buy a book?" So it's basically all good news, even when there's little road bumps along the way. So I appreciate being able to talk about it. I always love to talk to you guys. Your passion and your own creations give you an informed edge at talking about this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and it's a pleasure to talk about these things, especially Faust. Hey, I got my Faust shirt on. I love Faust as well.
Thank you. You got that from inmyparentsbasement.com?
Correct, yes.
Yes.
Looks like
four fans. Our buddy John down in Texas makes those, and he sells them through the inmyparentsbasement.com site. If you didn't get that, it's on my blog. You should be following inwaquin.com, and then you'll know any Faust news that I have to share humbly.
Yeah, I wore mine last night, so
Ooh,
it's a day early.
Really sweaty.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's gross and nasty. Oh.
Oh, I love it. That's great. I love a Faust shirt. I wanted to have those back in print forever.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked with our buddy Jason Moore on coming up with a design for a Faust logo shirt I was so proud of. But I'm not really great at working with print-on-demand websites.
Mm-hmm.
I could never make it work. So we skipped the print on demand. I guess I'm kind of like, okay, he's that old guy who can't figure out print on demand. And, my 17-year-old daughter was busy, so she couldn't do it all for me. And so, we finally worked with somebody that we really trusted to get this stuff out. Huge Faust fan down in Texas, John Wooden. And, he's making this, he's making some other interesting stuff. Some of it's a little off the rails, nothing I expected. And I told him this, it's no secret. He's got Faust blankets.
I did see those at Dallas Fan Expo.
There you go.
Yes, I was with my friend Max, and we're walking around, and I look up, and I'm like, wait a minute, David Quinn can't be here. That can't be a Faust banner. He didn't know he was coming here. And sure enough, they have blankets, huge blankets. I'm like,
it's bigger than a banner. It really makes an impression at a convention.
Yeah.
I got a great picture of my partner, Tim Vigil, sitting behind a table with 3 of these huge blankets of his covers. They're very fun, and he's selling these. And I was like, well, who I'm sorry, but who's going to buy that? But then I thought back to college and some of my first apartments. And sometimes you have you're living in a place that's, it's kind of no frills and a little beat up, and you want to really dress it up in a fun way. And you throw up a bunch of huge blankets on the walls or over windows or over your loft or whatever you have. So, I mean, it definitely has a place for someone. I have to look at the numbers, see if he's actually selling any of these things, but they're pretty fun.
And one thing I do know you guys have been selling are the shirts, because it looks like the shirts were selling very well, because I know Kyle and I were looking, some of the sizes sold out pretty quick. We're
very quickly.
Yeah.
Well, there was a huge backlog of demand for the shirts. People asked for the shirts forever. I kept telling my partner, Tim, we got to do these shirts.
I was going to buy one on eBay for $200. Those are the cheapest you could find.
I know. That's like the people trying to find a Faust 14.
Yes.
Some of our stuff is unfortunately hard to find. It's just the way it goes when you do something that's a little bit off the monthly superhero mix,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So last we spoke, the Kickstarter was still going on. And since then, it's obviously ended, but it ended at $118,000, 802 backers. Did this exceed all your expectations? Did it meet it?
Humbly, yes. Yeah, obviously it did. Especially, I mentioned Faust 14. In 2012 and 2013, we put out the last 2 chapters of Love of the Damned.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew there was a diehard following for it. And we were going to finish it no matter what. But these last 2 books were like a break-even proposition. They paid for themselves. Tim and I got a couple $100 each, that kind of thing.
Wow.
I mean, it was really like going way, way back to the beginning. It was like, oh man, we're either like, this is so old that no one wants to pay attention to it, or so adult that stores don't know about it, or stores just are under such pressure to make money that they're really only ordering, what they know they can sell right away from Marvel and DC that has a huge, marketing machine behind it. So, on the other hand, we put out a Kickstarter, collect the whole thing, including the rare issues, including extra material, including, this nice variant cover, which is really only going to be on this book.
Ooh.
And, signed.
Oh, I'm gonna
signed by these fools.
There we go. Oh, that is beautiful. I love it.
So, we brought out something special. Also, you notice that, well, I didn't compare it to a comic book, but you notice that's an 8x12, 4-pound, 500-page book.
Yeah, here's
so
just
it's
a
really
regular book.
tome.
Yep.
It's gonna be bigger than your Jack Kirby The Avengers #1 omnibus from Marvel. Slightly bigger. That's the size. So I mean, it's something kind of special, and like you said, it's limited. There were 802 backers, but there's actually only 782 copies because it was limited to 777. And then we added an extra 5 because Tim was going to do an extra 5 sketch editions. He sketched. He will be sketching. He's actually doing it now. In the front cover of 10 books for 10 people that paid more and got the extra tier. Real simple, real straightforward. Only 2 tiers Kickstarter, because I know a lot of people do a very entertaining Kickstarter with tons of specials and tons of variants and tons of like circus going on. But we were really just like, we've never done this before. Let's just do it and do it right.
Yeah.
We're going to have enough trouble just printing this book during post-COVID, post-supply chain, post-censorship, post-book burning, life. And, then we have to ship it. And, shipping is also difficult these days too, and expensive as hell.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost a 500-page book. That's not light.
People complain about the cost, but, it's not like extra profit. It's expensive to ship a big fat book.
Yeah, shipping is a silent killer. Shipping is a silent killer when it comes to
yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? I was just saying, like, yeah, we were humbly blown away by funding in 20 minutes, reaching the minimum goal we had to be able to print it and ship it. And then also just like continuing on to sell out in about 8.5 days. And as a result, we're well on our way to what we really dreamed to do, but we couldn't mention, because if we couldn't do it, we wouldn't want to promise it. Right. We really, really try. I mean, I know we're not famous for being monthly, right? But we really try to only like tell people the book's coming out when it really is coming out.
Yeah.
We have some business knowledge. So, we were like, oh, this is good. We're well on our way to being able to print comic shop editions as well to follow. So now that's the recent news, is the October release of a comic shop edition of the same content in a less limited version and a less expensive version.
And I am very excited. We're going to get to that. I want to get to that. We're going to follow like the path of events leading up to this because it's very interesting. So after this campaign ends, you guys are excited, fantastic. Then it's off to the printer process after that. Now, I've had some problems with printers in the past here with Sean because we've had some. There were some how should I say this? Very religious printers, very don't like questionable material coming across their printing machines. Now, did you encounter this problem again?
Yeah, and we worked a lot with Brenner down in Texas, which is now living in an environment where they've like curtailed working with adult material. And they're upfront about it, and it's very clear, and they're very respectful. And it's Mr. Quinn, come back to us when you have a book that's not sexually explicit, but we can't print this content. I understand that. That's upfront and perfect. But what we had a print broker that tried to get us to sign up with him and print in Korea. And then at the last minute, after we'd taken everyone's money and we were ready to send the book, end of last year, we were told, oh, well, actually, this is not we can't print this in Korea anymore. Sorry. And then it got even crazier because another print broker told us, oh, yeah, you can't print it in China. No, nor Malaysia or Singapore, but you can actually print it in Korea. So give me your business. And we were like, I don't know if we can trust this person. Someone else told us they can't print it in Korea. Luckily, we found friends up in Montreal who, I honestly don't know what they think of the content, but they're agnostic about whether they'll print it or not. They're like, they're just like, okay, well, we'll do business with you. Your money's good. Your money's good. This book looks good. You gave us everything we need. We're going to do this. So we did end up printing it, and we actually printed it. We had huge delays and lots of just drama of back and forth, and with all these printers all over the world, and enlisting friends like Matt Pizzolo and Frank Forte and a bunch of other people that we know to try to help us find people. My friend, my friends from Top Cow that do some material that's adult. It's not maybe as extreme as our adult material, but it's adult material from Top Cow. And they were like, well, I don't know. That we really had a hard time finding this printer. So once we found it, they did it. It cost a little bit more. So again, like we had to pay a little bit more money up front, have a little bit more delayed gratification to our ultimate payday for these books. But we printed everything. So we had it. It's sitting here in New York. So not only do we have the Kickstarter shipping out now, and by now I mean, God, I hope as soon as possible. Still working on it. And then, and then in October, the direct market, mostly I would say Diamond and Lunar, but maybe some others, will all be able to offer it to the comic shops. So that means, for people looking for this book, especially if you miss the Kickstarter or you want to buy an extra one or whatever, it's just going to be like, right now, I just ordered a few books coming out in September, right? So by about a month from now, you better tell your retailer you want the comic shop direct market edition of Faust, which is a gorgeous, like, antique book with a sexy spine fitting of Faust. Beyond good.
That's smart, because I want another copy now. You're gonna get another one. I want that. I want that cover.
Well, one person complained because he had to pay international shipping, and he felt like he was misled. But I mean, I sympathize, but I also like, well, it's 1 out of 802, and
Yeah.
You did you really think we were only going to make one edition forever? I thought you wanted to be part of the elite club that got the signed limited first shot with Tim's cover that won't be used on anything else. So I actually felt kind of bad for that guy, but you can't feel terrible forever. There's 12 people down in the comments below his comment who offer to buy it from him. So
no, what I appreciated in this, so two things is what I appreciated. One is Drew and I have backed a lot of stuff on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and what I appreciate is the updates you were giving.
Oh,
we were getting updates all the time about this is what's going on. This is who we're talking to. It's not working out. We're going to try something else. But it's that constant communication to where it's like, oh no, this is great. They actually care. It's somebody that actually understands and appreciates the backers, and we're working with this. We didn't forget about you, because there's a lot of times where stuff will show up at my door and I'm like, what the hell is this? I forgot I backed this. Like, it just, because you don't hear anything. And
that's fun. What a surprise. What a nice surprise.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for saying that. That means a lot, because I felt that we were doing the right thing to be as transparent as possible. Not be super slick about it, not try to snow anybody with something that wasn't true, not to overpromise.
Right.
I have some friends in the business that are just so enthusiastic about what they're doing. They always overpromise.
They do. And it sounds great.
And I've been doing this since 1987. So I kind of learned both in this business and in the business writing career I had, working for customers in financial and insurance and healthcare and energy. I mean, I kind of learned, like, you really got to be straight with people, and maybe they'll get it and they'll appreciate it. And also, people are really generous. I mean, okay, one guy, wants to complain. And there is like a 1% that'll always make you wrong and complain, and it's conspiracy theory and everything else. But, for the most part, people are really generous, and they not only give you their money, but they'll give you their patience, and they'll say, like, well, if you're taking extra time to really do it right and taking extra time to make sure it's protected through the mail, I can wait a little bit longer. I already waited since 2012.
Right. Yeah. A few more months. So I appreciated that. And then two, it's you waited until you're fulfilling this to then put it into stores, as opposed to being like, hey, those of you that backed it, that's great. By the way, it's going to be in stores next week and you can go ahead and get it then, because that's happened before in the past.
Oh, well, I would have felt better if actually backer 35 and backer 157 had already gotten their copies in hand before we made that announcement. But the catalogs and the calendar caught up with us. And when we were a couple weeks delayed in shipping, these two guys and everybody else, I don't know who these two guys are. They just picked two numbers at random.
Random numbers are probably losers, and that's fair.
Isn't it you guys?
Probably.
It's you guys.
It could be. Probably.
Yeah.
See, I pay attention, Born of Blood.
What? We got a question here in the comments. Does Mr. Quinn have any idea if Joe Vigil will ever collect Gunfighters in Hell?
I haven't talked to Joe about that, but I sure as hell hope he does. That book is unique.
And Riley Sutton here says, plan to get a copy. You and Vigil are the best. That is 100% correct.
Great.
You humble us. Thank you, Riley.
And so when did you come to the decision you were going to do another variant for the stores? Was this when you were...
Actually, I got to interrupt you because it was the other way around.
Oh, okay.
This was the original edition, and this is what we were going to go out with. And it was going to go everywhere to the stores. And we didn't think we were doing the Kickstarter at all. And we didn't add the Kickstarter till a couple of months before the Kickstarter.
Oh,
So
whoa.
the other one is the thing we added. The other one was actually a big help in funding the entire event. And the other one was the thing that we added. And the other one was the thing we had to figure out ad hoc, because all of a sudden we were not only, shipping books to Diamond and Lunar, and at the time Simon and Schuster, but right now I don't even know if they're shipping it. I'm not sure if they're also a distributor for this book yet. I got to catch up with the guys at Black Mask, who are our partner in the direct market versions.
And that was going to be my next question with Black Mask. So did you go to them? Did they come to you? How did that work with that?
David went to everybody. Since 2010, when I went to Titan and had Titan in London. I was on a family vacation with my wife and daughter, and I went, and among other great places we went to in London, we went to Titan. And I love those guys, and I love the books they do, and I wanted a global platform for this book. And that was my first choice for a publishing partner to do a Titan Rebel co-publication. And we'd put it all together, and we'd help fund it, and they would distribute it to the world. And we were talking deal until they got the deal to do Doctor Who. And all of a sudden they got way too busy to talk to little David with his crazy little adult book. And it makes sense. Come on, they're in London and they got Doctor Who. They're going to make hay. So then I went to everybody else over the years. Anyone you can think of. You probably wouldn't mention Marvel or DC because they don't have a creator co-publishing deal with anybody, not a real one. I mean, at a few times they've had people like, Quesada and Palmiotti or Gerard Way or other creators have an imprint.
Yes,
but it's always, if you look at the fine print, it's always owned and controlled by Marvel or DC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went to everybody. I went to everybody over the years. And, the story I tell about it is pretty simple. It's like people greeted me respectfully and were happy to talk about it and asked me if they could maybe get a copy of Faust 14 and 15, which they never got a chance to buy. And then said, I would buy this book. I can't wait till you do it. Please send me one. I can't publish it. I would lose my job. So, I mean, it's back to the thing you mentioned before about content closing you out.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not like we're, criminal or terrible people that have been, canceled for assaulting people or anything terrible like that. But it's just like the content is pretty untouchable. So, I mean, it wasn't a big surprise. I mean, luckily, though, it was a horror panel in 2012 where Matt Pizzolo, the head guy at Black Mask, he wrote Calexid and he wrote Godkiller, and he produces his work and other people's. He and I really kind of vibed on common ground that we found in appreciating each other's work and appreciating being willing to push the limits, sort of like being the people that followed up on the Paul Schrader's and David Cronenberg's and Clive Barker's of storytelling, and really tried to keep pushing horror in new directions.
Great.
And so as a result, like a few months later, he asked me if maybe he couldn't. He was producing not only comics but films with Black Mask. I mean, Occupy Comics was something they got a lot of attention for, and really sort of made their mark as people that were like really trying to make a difference and make people think about things differently, and really trying to make people excited about stories that were willing to push people a little bit and break the rules. And he was like, selling selling people's properties as films and TV, and making his own films. Very DIY guy, which I really, really respect. Being like a old school, like we talked last time, old school punk and lo-fi, do-it-yourself kind of person. He was like saying, "Let me represent you guys, and let me represent your properties." And I felt good enough from our conversation that I was like willing to try it. And we started trying to figure out how we're going to do night vision for TV and Go to Sleep Little Creep for animation. And then one day we were like, what about 7/7 the Wrath or Faust? Just go ahead and do like the most transformational thing you can think of and see if we can make a break with that. And so I pitched that to my partner Vigil, and he was open-minded to it because he was very happy we'd made the film with Brian Yuzna years ago, and he wanted to do more. And right now, long-form television. I mean, some people say it's past its prime, but I'm still a believer. And the strike is, an essential and necessary thing to be happening, but it's also hurting that business and hurting a lot of small businesses adjacent to it. So it's a difficult world right now in all that. But Matt actually sold an animated Faust option to Sony Television. So, I mean, based on that, we thought, well, finally, this is not a person that's going to have that conversation with me that says, I'd love to buy this book, but I can't sell it. Because even though he has a board of people that he reports to, he's driving his company. Mm-hmm. And he's got a merchandise company, a publishing company, a production house, and he's doing all those worlds. So it's great. We're still independent, but we have a partner that can help us do all those things. So that's how that happened, and that's why this book has both the Rebel logo and the Black Mask logo on it. And when it comes out in the distributors' catalogs, it'll have a Rebel Studios production on it, but it'll be a Black Mask book in the Black Mask section. Because Rebel hasn't actually done much direct market publishing, right? The last thing Tim and I did was a book we only sold ourselves directly. And, both of us have done little bits and pieces for other people, but we've been mostly trying to build up to get this done.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the Faust-related material I've seen come out over the years has been through Avatar, like Avatar Press. I've seen I think Wrath, and so it came out through Avatar. But yeah, it's great to see a publisher pick it up, and I'm hoping that they are able to get you guys out to the convention circuit, hopefully, and sell these copies, at the conventions. That'd be great exposure as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't do it. Tim's is still a real barn burner road warrior. Yeah. He's had a lot, but I haven't done as much since I was back in the 90s and doing like a work for hire book every month for Chaos or Marvel or Top Cow or whoever. I mean, so I got to get back out there a little bit, and I'll be doing San Diego and New York this year.
Ooh, I'll be at New York, so there we go. I'll be able to see you there.
All right.
So I believe, let me try if I can pull it up. Kyle, do you have any questions while I pull up the direct market information for this?
Well, I mean, where to begin? There's just so many. So if you could, is there anything that you wish you had done differently going back, looking through the 2020, hindsight's always 2020, the lens. It's looking back, would you have been like, man, I wish we would have done this differently, or man, we should have done this or added this or something to the campaign, or were you just happy with how everything went, aside from shipping and printing, obviously?
Are we talking about the Kickstarter or the last 37 years?
Any of it. I mean, really, any of it. Yeah. Would you just look back and be like, man, should have done this?
We wasted time working with North Star too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the minute they stopped paying us what they were making, we just should have been gone. But it took us a little while longer. We were really trying to negotiate for what we were owed.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't always like gentlemanly negotiation. I know I got really hot sometimes. I mean,
Come on now.
There's a writer. Oh, I'm going to forget his name. There's a writer who's done a lot of stuff for DC who used to work for. I'll just leave it at that. People can figure out who it is.
That narrows it down.
Who worked for North Star at the time as like an intern. He's a younger guy. And he remembers and tells the story of the day I like came crashing into the office, like demanding the money we were owed. And like he thought, oh, that guy's really a crazy hothead. And I think it helps if you write something like Faust for people to be pre-conditioned to think you're that way. You guys have talked to me a couple times now, and we've seen another side. It's kind of measured and like, that's somebody's dad, you know?
Very calm, cool, collected. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like somebody's dad who's also writes crazy shit. So I mean, the North Star thing, we stuck around with them too long. But other than that, you know, we found our own way over the years, and we kept adjusting to everything that changed. Black and white, boom. Well, let's push it. And we'll publish a bunch of friends. Black and white, crash. Oops. Let's make sure we have other freelance work. And maybe some of our friends won't get published by us anymore because we can only afford to do our own book. And then, you know, then there was the period of like the first 10, 12 years of this century when I just pretty much left comics altogether. I wrote things. I still finished up the last couple issues of Faust and wrote some children's books and wrote some other comics. But I just like made all my money from business writing. So, I mean, it's a constant unlearning what you were doing yesterday and relearning something new. And that's just what you have to do. And you're going to find yourself, I think, in a smaller and smaller and smaller world if you keep doing the same thing. And as some famous quote says, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you're going. So you kind of have to be able to course correct along the way. So, I mean, I don't have those kinds of regrets.
Okay.
And how can I regret, you know, the way the world changes and there's more book burnings and more censorship and, you know.
Now's the perfect time to bring it back from the ashes. Yeah. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. From the ashes, literally.
Yes.
You just reminded me of an episode of The Simpsons where Reverend Lovejoy pulls up to Lisa and asks her if she could recommend any books to him. She's like, yeah, I recommend this, this, and that. He's like, oh, thank you. And you see him drive off and it says book burning mobile.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's To Kill a Mockingbird and The Color Purple and Faust.
Who needs it? That's all there. All.
Well, you guys have on the screen the catalog page.
Yep.
People will find this not in the catalog right out there right now, but in the one that comes out around the time of San Diego Comic-Con, end of the month. And then tell your retailer this is what you want if you want it.
Oh, so
and I'm fairly certain the gentleman who runs our brick and mortar store, Ernie, I'm sure he's going to be pre-ordering a few of these.
I hope so.
Yeah, he does well with those. Like he'll order one or two, like on the buy or trade paperbacks, and put them up and like take orders. And I don't see how he wouldn't be able to get any orders.
Oh man, that's great. Well, I've always had some retailers around the New York area that have been the same way. Mm-hmm. They really pay attention, and they pay attention to their people. And you know, if you tell them you want it, you can get it. But if you don't tell them you want it, then they might not take a chance because they gotta invest in this book. I mean, it retails for about $90.
Yeah.
And so that means they got to spend about what, 40, 43, 44.
Yeah. If it's 50%, 40, 50%, depending on
Yeah. And it's non-returnable, so they're taking a risk if you don't show up and buy it. So you know, I respect that. Mm-hmm. That's why we had so much trouble in the 90s, is people didn't show up and buy what they ordered because all of a sudden they weren't going to be able to be millionaires on their Valiant comics anymore.
Still holding out for Turok #1. I got my case in the back office.
Yep.
Okay, cases. Okay, I got 2 cases.
Oh, I hope you have some young bloods too.
Youngblood #1s. Yeah, they're buried in the back of the airport. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're there.
Oh, oh God, what a crazy business this is.
90s were a crazy time. 90s were a very, very crazy time. Yeah, and so if people have no clue what we're talking about, watch Cartoonist Kayfabe as they go through the Wizard magazines through the years, and yeah, you'll see what they were promoting at the time. It was crazy.
Well, those guys are in the book. You know that?
Yeah, I know that, and I saw the video recently. They already have their copies of this.
Yeah,
you got this.
Well, the people that contributed to the book already have their copies.
Okay.
You guys are sadly, because we're shipping it a couple of weeks later than we thought we were. You guys don't have yours yet, but like I said, I mean, you'll get it.
Awesome.
And so those guys had it because I really wanted them to have it because they're in it. Same with Jason Moore, the designer of the cover. This had been our vision for a long time, to have something that looks like an ancient magic tome that's a little like aged and beat up and evil,
which is perfect for it.
Yeah, it honestly fits it. So
and it's a little kind of shocking compared to a tradition in Faust of like detailed, intricate Tim Vigil illustrations. This is like, oh, that is a book cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want one. Damn it. I really am probably going to get one.
Oh,
I want.
Is it
well,
embossed?
That makes me feel good.
Yeah. Can you? Is it? It looks like it's embossed on the cover. Like you can feel the designs on it.
It's a spot varnish.
Okay.
There's a spot varnish designed by our designer Phil Smith. But it's not real leather. Matt was asking me, "Are you really intending to put this on? Make this manufactured from leather?" I couldn't resist telling him, "No, human flesh."
How much is that? That's cheap, right? That's not that expensive.
Cheap.
Mm-hmm. Someone's got to do it somewhere.
We smell a little bit, but don't worry. It's worth the smell. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember when Mark Grunwald put his.
Oh yes, and Supreme. Yeah, Supreme. Squadron Supreme.
Mark Grunwald from Marvel. Requested his ashes after his death be put into a Marvel product, and they were.
Yep,
Squadron Supreme that has his ashes in the ink.
Yeah, I think it's that first, the first volume of the first time they collected it. Yeah, it's in those trades. It's like, okay, that's a first. Oh, cool.
Okay, so this is a really weird tangent to go down. We have no bodily fluids actually used in the book. So.
Next time.
It's the kind of thing you'd sort of almost expect Tim and I to think of.
Yes.
No.
Is Tim signing it in his own blood? Like, use a pen, Tim. Jeez.
No.
So did So were there any negotiations with Black Mask where it's like, okay, any compromising you guys had to do, or was it just we're just going to go ahead and take it all and print it? Was there some things like,
not editorially or content wise?
Okay.
I mean, Matt runs, like I said, he runs a merchandising business, a studio of productions for TV and film and comics publishing. So he's always, very conscious of helping us present ourselves in the best possible way to engage the audience and not get in trouble with some people that might want to make trouble for us, make us wrong for whatever we've done, whatever it is. But that's all like more like just, I don't know, business and audience engagement. Massaging along the way. None of it is ever like, you got to change this content, don't say that, like if we do a press release, it's like, say what you want to say.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and you look at his books. Four Kids Walk into a Bank is one that I remember. The work
Yeah.
of Maria Lovett that she's been doing. There's a guy named Pat Shand has been doing their Black Mask Kickstarters now.
Yeah, I think Starbucks Barista or Barista Killer or Gangster Barista.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look at their books and they're very diverse and different, and they're all different from each other, but they're all personal.
Mhm.
So I think that's why it's organic and natural for Pizzolo, another DIY kind of creator, just wants people to do their thing. So no, the content is not being schooled and monitored and policed. Maybe like they're trying to massage along the business engagement, but that's different. That's just like trying to reach the market.
Yeah.
Because actually, here's an important point I didn't mention before, but you guys and we've talked a lot about all the things I've been interested in over the years. And one thing that's always really strong for me is like writing the kind of stories that are like almost like a primal, like fireside experience, like a mythology, a personal mythology, searching for a design for living better or living more truly to yourself. It comes up again and again in all the stories I find myself writing. And where I'm going with this is that I think I really want to be able to tell all kinds of stories. Stories like for kids, stories for teens, stories for adults that you are unmistakably only for adults, and you don't want to show them to your kids. I mean, something for every day. And when I find other people that are accepting of that, I'm at home and I'm feeling good. And even some people who, like, you might say, like my partner Vigil has there's been times I try to push him out of his comfort zone and maybe play around a little bit with something that's for kids or something that's not in the Faustian 777 the Wrath vein. And he'll meet me there, but he's maybe not as interested in being as universal as I am, and I respect that. So I want to be able to do all this stuff while I can and make the stories that are good for people who think stories help their life. Stories help them get through life.
So does that mean are you going to be telling more stories through Black Mask? Or are you going to be telling more on your own, self-publishing? What does the future hold for the publishing?
Right before we started our conversation, I was talking about like how burnt out I am about working so much on the business side. Like I've been working so much on the sort of editorial and traffic manager side of this new project I'm doing, which I'd actually love to tell you a little bit about later. But The Addiction with my partner Vincent Zerzolo here in New York, and Claudio Balboni, a very exciting artist we're working with, who was just nominated for an Eisner for her book Killer Queens. But we're actually seeking a publishing partner for that. And it hasn't been scheduled yet, but we're talking to Black Mask and other people to try to find the right solution to publish that. And I would love it if I could work with publishers and not make everything something I have to be the editor, accountant, traffic manager.
It's a lot.
Print broker. I mean, I can do all that business, but it's great sometimes to be a writer and to have an editor you trust and a company you trust and work that way too. So, I fully intend, like when you see an announcement come out about this book, and maybe the news will pick it up, maybe they won't, but I'll share it with you guys. It'll be like, this could pave the way for other retrospective editions of historical things I've done, like all the Avatar Faust stuff, which is not in this book, and the Avatar Wrath stuff, and all the Night Vision stuff, and maybe Tim's Gothic Knights, which none of that is included in this first Rebel Studios big fat book. So I mean, we'd like to be able to do all that, but also to do new things. I mean, Tim also works on new things too. I'm pretty ambitious about it. I've done a lot of writing during COVID. It's how I survived through the isolated and quiet, and in the beginning, very fearful time and time of losing friends and seeing people die. So I mean, it's really how I got through that. So I mean, there's a backlog of stuff ready to go. So should I tell you about the addiction?
Yeah. You want to tell it on the air, or you want to tell it off the stream? Or?
I'm happy to tell it on the air, but I'm going to give the version that is like, this is what we're working on, and it's not on the schedule yet. So we would like to have this come out, and we'd like to maybe do some kind of ashcan or premiere at New York Comic-Con this fall, and then we'd like it to come out at the end of the year. But it's not on anybody's publishing schedule, despite our trying. And despite our showing it to a few people that were just not ready to, bank on it. And everyone has a story to tell you about why it doesn't work. Like, it's hard to sell superheroes. It's like, what do you mean? Okay, all right. Or it's too odd and eccentric. Well, everything I've done is odd and eccentric. And sold. So, I mean, I don't believe that either. But so everyone will tell you a story why they can't do it. So we're dealing with some, rejection, just like people that put their work out there do. You guys have tasted a little bit of that, I'm sure.
Yep.
So, this is a very interesting book that if you compared it to something that does well in the market that most people know, it would be a little bit like the books and the television of Marvel's Hawkeye. Okay? It's a family story about human beings that are kind of real and down to earth. But there's an element of crime to it. There's an element of romance to it. And there's an element of supernatural, super science, superhero. Hawkeye's a great hero specifically. And they do this so well in this series. And in the Marvel Universe movies that feature Hawkeye, they do this so well in those stories. He's really just a guy.
Yeah.
He's the only Avenger that's just a guy. So, I mean, like, when he jumps off a building, that's special. So, that said, it has nothing to do with Hawkeye. He's not the hero in this book is not a costume Avenger who shoots people with arrows. However, it is, like I said, family, romance, crime, and superheroes thrown into a blender. It's about a woman who was killed by the crime cartels that run the drugs in the world and run the underground drug economy, both legal and illegal. She was killed because she was fighting addiction successfully. She combined drugs to help fight addiction, which exists, right? And she combined that with all the non-drug and non-chemical aspects of therapy. I mean, the talking therapy, the traditional therapy, the spirituality, whatever it took. So she combined the ephemeral with the scientific and was actually making headway. And she had to be killed. However, when she was killed, and this is where it becomes sort of like DC's classic Dead Man, or maybe The Question, or maybe a little bit like Faust. When she was killed, she had another life afterwards. Because they used drugs to kill her, she somehow had a reaction that changed her, kept her alive, and gave her the power to drug people with her touch. So she is now a living drug, and she's fighting drugs. And this is where Vincent and I landed on what we thought was a niche, an interesting niche, a very human story, and a good example of someone who's a superhero, but they're fighting a real world problem. So we're having a lot of fun with it. And she's got a boyfriend. She's not quite like sure whether she's okay with him being her boyfriend, just like we all are at times, you know. And she's getting through her life in a combined romance and crime world, and a world of crazy over-the-top villains that will remind you of, you know, Batman and Dick Tracy and Spider-Man villains, just really kind of quirky and crazy. So it's another quirky book with madness, confusion, and high emotion, and we'll see if we can make it work.
Everything you've told me, I'm failing to see why Image wouldn't pick this up.
I was going to say the exact same thing. That sounds like an Image book. 100%.
Thank you. Well, they all have. Not everyone at Image has said no yet. They've asked to see more.
Hey, that's how to know.
Yeah.
And you know, Black Mask also likes it, and they haven't put it on the schedule yet. So I mean, it's like it's probably a bandwidth problem, but we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll find a way to put it out there. I tell my partner all the time, he's huge as a basically global retailer of classic comics. When you Google like people that sell Action #1 for millions of dollars, this is the guy he's pictured. They show you. So he has that background, lifelong comic fan, self-made, you know, comic seller supreme. He had the spark of the idea and was a friend of mine and trusted me as a writer to help him develop it. And against better advice from anyone, we just continued to develop it. So now it's going to be a 3-issue miniseries, which is pretty much ready to go. Like I said, Claudia's a great artist. She's really exciting. Look up Killer Queens. Just wait till you see like her stuff on the Addiction. And it's being colored by Brad Simpson, real talented color artist out of the West Coast, Oregon. And lettered by a professional named Dave Sharp, who's done a lot of books and has a real clean, distinct, zesty lettering style. So, I mean, and then we have illustrators contributing covers, some of them that you've never heard of, because that's exciting. Some of them that are just like somebody that you might even say like, well, that's, forget like Rising Star. That's a fan artist. They haven't published hardly anything, but they're great. And others that are people that are pretty well established, like Amanda Connor or David Mack or Archer. So,
Archer, you got it.
Yeah.
Wow, an Archer.
Nice.
Yep. So we're actually trying to make it fun for people that collect different comics with different covers, as well as people that enjoy an offbeat crime superhero type story.
Yeah, and I hope when I get to New York this year, I'm hoping to see that ash can, because hey,
I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Yeah.
I'm not the over promise guy.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd be cool because I'll tell you off the air, I'm supposed to have something there as well. I'm going to be promoting with Murat Michaels. But
very cool.
So it'd be cool. Do a 1-for-1 exchange. Like, hey, you got that? I got that. Yeah, how about that?
But it's just a matter of time. We will get this one out there, and then everything else, hopefully, even some of my quirky, hard to sell, weird horror for toddlers books out there.
Hey, there's a market for that. I'm sure at conventions, parents walking by with their kids will gladly pick that up.
Well, you saw this one, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is the this is putting the baby monsters to sleep. It's a lullaby for the universal horror monsters. And it's like, what goth comic parent wouldn't want to read that to their little beloved urchin?
I have a 5-week-old now, so I'm going to be picking up one of those. Wait.
Actually, Penguin Random House still has it in print, which is great.
Oh.
It hasn't been out of print since it was first published almost 5 years ago.
Oh wow, yeah, I can't wait.
Like I said, it's one of those books I can see being very popular at a convention because there's a lot of parents walking through with their kids, toddlers, and I can see them and the kids being like, "Oh, what is that?" And just getting excited about that.
Yeah, well, I usually carry a few with me and sign them and sell them to people, and they can still find it on all the book distributors and online stores as well. So it's out there. And I love doing books for kids just as much as I love doing the crazy, transgressive, in your face thrust of horror that is bloody Faust. I just love reading to a room of kids and getting them all to make ghost and werewolf sounds with me.
Honestly, it just those stark contrasts. It reminds me of Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, Frankenstein, but he was producing like the Elephant Man, the Fly.
Yeah.
It's like, wait,
that's a really good example. That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how does that happen? It's like,
how does that work?
Yeah. So we're coming up on an hour. Time has just flown by. It's crazy. So we're probably just going to wrap this thing up, unless is there anything people need to know before we wrap this up that you wanted to direct them toward? You want to let them know? The floor is yours.
Maybe like when you do anything like online, just like make sure the blog is on there. A lot of people say like, I didn't know about this Kickstarter. And that's because we sent press releases to everybody, but very few people picked up on it. Mm-hmm. So a few YouTubers like yourself and Kayfabers and Imperious Rex and other people. But, this like, if people want to find my information, the only thing I really control is the blog. And the only thing that Tim really controls is the Patreon. And we do some social media, especially Instagram.
Yep.
And, Tim has a lot of followers on there, but he doesn't control the algorithm. So he doesn't know if you follow him, you don't necessarily see everything from him. So, I mean, if you're following Tim's Patreon, and there's a fee for that, but it's worth it. And if you're following my blog, which is free, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's because your blog I found out about the shirts. I'm like, here they are. They're up.
And believe me, I'm not a blogger. I'm not that kind of a super spontaneous writer who wants to write about my breakfast and stuff like that. I mean, I really like always approach it like it's an essay, and I try to break myself of that. It's like, that's not the modern way of thinking about this kind of engagement. You're really just trying to be honest with people and be real with people and put a little thought out there. But I actually always think about like, how this is like, what's the purpose of this? What's the thesis, and what are the conclusions that we reach? It's like I write it like it's a story or an essay. So because of that, I'm slow. So it's not even weekly that I publish things, but I do make sure all the news is there, and that's where people would have first seen this thing that's on the screen right now, the announcement of the Black Mask Rebel bookstore edition that's coming in October.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be posting a link in our chats and on the Comics Elite YouTube page and pushing it.
Great.
Yeah, because I know Cartoonist Kayfabe, they have a big reach. I like to think Sean at Comics Elite has a big reach as well, and so does Ernie. He runs a brick and mortar store. So yeah, we're going to be we're going to do what we can to promote this, because the Kickstarter was very successful, but I would love to see it be successful as well in stores. That's where the other magic is, the other half of the magic.
Yeah.
And it needs to, because it's good. It's fun. There's that time. It's that resurgence is coming about now. It's like that, because of the culture and, where we're at as a society, it's like this underground stuff is wanting to come back again. And it's like, we need to push it again. It's needed.
Now you sound like our friend Matt Pizzola. He said, like, Faust may have been ahead of its time, but life is caught up.
Yeah.
There are so many publishers like Marvel and DC, like they're very cookie cutter, very safe. They don't really take chances, take risks, and it's like a breath of fresh air when you see something like Faust that is, it's a rebel book, no pun intended. It takes chances, takes risks. It pushes the boundary. It's like, whoa, they did this. I mean, I can only imagine showing this to like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old who's never imagined a page of art like that or a story like this.
This could be printed. Oh my God, this is insane. It's like, oh yeah, just wait.
Oh, that's good. Well, you make me happy. You make me gratified. It was worth, it was worth digging through the trenches all these years. We are humbled always by people responding to it with their hearts and minds and blood and guts and helping us pay for it.
Yes.
Gladly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks everybody. Really, thank you. And we put our work out there, and it belongs to you at that point. So let us know what you think.
Absolutely. So the man is David Quinn. The work right here is Faust, Love the Damned. If you're on Kickstarter, if you're backed in on Kickstarter, you should be getting it hopefully soon. And the hardcover edition for the stores will be out hopefully later this fall. And the other half of this was Tim Vigil, did the art, another terrific creator. And the publisher for this is Black Mask. And do what you can, get to your stores. Tell them you want it. Tell them you want this. Tell them you tell them that your friends want this as well. Right? So in closing, I'm Drew with Comics Elite. Once again, I'm here with
Kyle, not Kevin.
And as Sean often says, buy what you like, collect what you want, don't listen to the haters, and we'll see you guys again next time.